Arizona Territory, 1883. The unforgiving sun beat down on the dusty streets of Willow Creek, a frontier town where civilization and wilderness collided in an uneasy truce. The air smelled of horse manure, wood smoke, and the lingering tension between settlers and the native tribes who had called these lands home for generations. It was here, amid the backdrop of frontier expansion and cultural conflict, that Liam Sullivan believed he had found his purpose. At 25, Liam was already hardened by life on the frontier. His lean, muscular frame moved with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to danger, while his piercing blue eyes remained ever vigilant beneath the brim of his dust-covered Stetson. Though his clean-shaven face retained the handsome features that made the local girls giggle and whisper when he rode into town, there was a coldness to his expression, a distance that kept everyone at arm's length. "The West ain't for the soft-hearted," he often told himself, a mantra that had served him well since his family's massacre 5 years prior. Their small homestead had been attacked while he was away hunting. He returned to find everything he loved destroyed, their bodies already being reclaimed by the harsh desert soil. Though he never discovered who was responsible, his grief had calcified into a simple truth. Attachment was weakness, and in the West, weakness got you killed. Liam had found his calling as a scout and occasional bounty hunter, tracking outlaws through territories where most lawmen feared to venture. The solitary existence suited him. No connections meant no vulnerabilities. The vast, empty landscape mirrored the wasteland he cultivated inside his heart, barren, hostile to new growth. Sullivan, the booming voice of Marshal Wilson, cut through Liam's thoughts as he led his dappled gray gelding toward the livery stable. "Night a word." Liam nodded curtly. His latest bounty, a cattle rustler named Jenkins, was tied securely to his saddle. The man's bloody face bore testament to his resistance before Liam had brought him in. "Another one for the cells," Liam said, his voice flat as the desert floor. "Should fetch $300. The marshal eyed Jenkins, then turned his attention back to Liam. "Good work, but that's not why I called you over. Got something else that might interest you." Liam remained silent, his expression unchanged though his jaw tightened imperceptibly. "Army's having trouble with some Apache raiders. Hitting supply wagons between here and Fort Bowie. They want someone who knows the territory to scout ahead, maybe track down their camp." "I hunt men, not tribes," Liam replied coolly. "These particular Apache have killed 12 soldiers in the past month. Army's offering $500 for information leading to their camp. Double that if you help with the operation." Money talked in the West, and Liam's silence acknowledged it. He needed supplies for the coming winter, and such a sum would see him comfortable for months. "I'll think on it," he finally said, taking the folded paper the marshal extended. Later that evening, as Liam sat alone in the corner of the Dusty Rose saloon, nursing a whiskey and contemplating the marshal's offer, fate dealt him a hand he couldn't have anticipated. The saloon doors swung open, admitting a gust of cool night air and 3 drunken ranch hands. Between them stumbled a young woman, her wrists bound with rough rope. Even in the dim lamplight, Liam could see she was Apache, dressed in a simple cotton dress that had once been white but was now stained with trail dust and smudges of blood. She couldn't have been more than 20 years old, her black hair falling in tangled waves past her shoulders. Despite her disheveled appearance, there was a fierce dignity in her posture. "Look what we caught sneaking around Harper's Creek," one of the men announced, shoving the woman forward. She stumbled but refused to fall, her dark eyes flashing with defiance. "Figure the army might pay for information. These savages must know where their raiders are hiding." Something stirred in Liam, not compassion, he told himself, but professional interest. The same Apache he was considering hunting were likely her people. Before he could decide whether to involve himself, the situation deteriorated. "Might have some fun with her first," another ranch hand slurred, grabbing the woman's arm. She reacted instantly, driving her knee upward with practiced precision. The man howled, doubling over, while his companions roared with laughter. "She's a wildcat," one jeered. The injured man straightened, rage distorting his features. His hand flew to his pistol. "You'll pay for that, you Apache witch." Liam moved before he could question his own judgment. His chair scraped back as he stood, hand already resting on his Colt. "That's enough," he said, his voice cutting through the commotion. All eyes turned to him. Recognition dawned on the men's faces. Liam Sullivan's reputation preceded him. "This ain't your business, Sullivan," the leader snarled, though his hand remained conspicuously away from his weapon. Making it my business, Liam replied evenly. Marshal Wilson's expecting her, Army intelligence. It was a lie, but a convenient one. The men exchanged uncertain glances. Since when does the Army send you to collect prisoners? The third man challenged. Since they started paying double for discretion. Liam's hand remained casual but ready on his pistol. Now you boys want to explain to the Marshal why you're interfering with Army business, or would you prefer to walk away with your dignity intact? A tense moment passed before the leader spat on the floor. Take the savage, then. More trouble than she's worth. He shoved the woman toward Liam, who caught her arm to steady her. The brief contact sent an unexpected jolt through him. Her skin was warm despite the cool night, her muscles tense beneath his fingers. As the ranch hands retreated to the bar, muttering curses, the Apache woman stood before Liam, her expression a mixture of suspicion and wary gratitude. Up close he could see her beauty more clearly, high cheekbones, full lips, and eyes like obsidian that reflected the lamplight. "You're not working for the Army," she said in perfect English, surprising him. Liam raised an eyebrow. "And you speak better English than most in this saloon." A ghost of a smile touched her lips before vanishing. "My father believed knowledge was power. He sent me to the mission school," her expression hardened. "Until soldiers burned it." Liam gestured toward an empty chair at his table. "Sit, those fools will be watching. Best make this look legitimate before I cut those ropes." She hesitated only a moment before complying. As they sat facing each other across the scarred wooden table, Liam discreetly drew his knife and slid it under the table, cutting her bonds while maintaining eye contact. "Why help me?" she asked, rubbing her chafed wrists once they were free. Liam shrugged. "Call it professional curiosity. I'm tracking Apache raiders. You're Apache." Her eyes narrowed. "So I am to be your prisoner instead." "No," Liam said, surprising himself with his own answer, "but you might have information worth trading for safe passage out of town." "My name is Nayeli Hawkeye," she said after a moment's consideration. "My father was a white trader. My mother was daughter to a chief of the Chiricahua Apache." "Liam Sullivan," he replied, sliding his whiskey toward her. She ignored it. "I know who you are, bounty hunter. Your reputation reaches even to my people." Something in her tone made Liam shift uncomfortably. There was knowledge in her eyes that seemed to pierce through his carefully constructed walls. "These raiders," she continued, leaning forward slightly, "they are not my band, but I know of them. They follow a war chief named Tonto, who believes peace with the white man is impossible." "And what do you believe?" Liam asked, finding himself genuinely curious. Nayeli's expression remained unreadable. "I believe survival requires adaptation, but adaptation without honor is just surrender." The conversation was interrupted by the saloon doors swinging open again. Marshal Wilson entered, his gaze immediately finding Liam and the Apache woman. "Sullivan," he called, striding over, heard there was a commotion. His eyes narrowed at Nayeli. "What's this?" "Potential guide," Liam improvised, standing. "For that Army job, she knows the raiders." Wilson looked skeptical. "Army won't take kindly to working with an Apache." "They'll take kindly to finding the raiders' camp," Liam countered. "I'm taking her with me. She's my responsibility." The Marshal scratched his beard thoughtfully. "Your funeral, Sullivan, but keep her out of town. Folks are jumpy enough with the raids." After the Marshal departed, Nayeli looked at Liam with renewed interest. "You have decided to hunt my people, then?" "I've decided to do the job," Liam corrected. "What happens after we find the camp depends on what we discover." She studied him intently, as if seeing something beneath his hardened exterior that even he had forgotten existed. "You seek justice, not blood. That is why you hunt men, not tribes." Her perception unsettled him. "We leave at dawn," he said abruptly, standing. "I have a room at the boarding house. You'll stay there tonight where it's safe." "And where will you stay?" she asked, a challenge in her voice. "With my horse," Liam replied. "I prefer the stars to a ceiling most nights." Nayeli stood gracefully, "As do I. But I accept your offer of shelter, bounty hunter. For tonight, our paths run together." As they left the saloon, Liam felt the weight of curious stares on his back. He told himself his actions were practical. The woman had information he needed. But something deeper stirred beneath that rationalization, something he had thought buried alongside his family years ago. The feeling troubled him as they walked in silence toward the boarding house. Attachment was weakness, caring led to vulnerability, and vulnerability in this unforgiving land was merely an invitation to pain. Yet as he watched Nayeli walk beside him, her head held high despite the hostile glares from townsfolk they passed, Liam found himself wondering if there were different kinds of strength than those he had cultivated in his years of solitude. It was a dangerous thought, one he quickly dismissed as they reached the boarding house, but like a seed dropped in supposedly barren soil, it had already begun to take root. Dawn broke over the eastern mountains, painting the desert in hues of gold and crimson as Liam finished saddling his horse. The morning air carried a chill that would burn off by midday, replaced by the relentless heat that defined Arizona summers. He had spent an uncomfortable night in the livery stable, his sleep disturbed by thoughts of the Apache woman and the journey ahead. The sound of footsteps made him turn. Nayeli approached, now dressed in buckskin leggings and a loose cotton shirt beneath a fringed leather vest, more practical attire for the trail than the dress she'd worn previously. Her long black hair was neatly braided, falling over one shoulder. In the morning light he noticed a small tattoo on her right wrist, a hawk in flight. "You came," Liam said, unable to hide his surprise. Part of him had expected her to disappear during the night. Nayeli's lips curved slightly. "I keep my word, bounty hunter. Besides, these raiders threaten my people as much as yours. They bring the army's wrath down upon all Apache." Liam nodded, appreciating her practicality. He led a second horse forward, a sturdy pinto mare he had acquired from the livery stable at first light. "Can you ride?" he asked, offering her the reins. "Since before I could walk," she replied, accepting them with a graceful nod. She mounted in one fluid motion, settling into the saddle with the ease of someone born to it. "Where do we begin our search?" "The last attack was at Cottonwood Crossing," Liam replied, swinging onto his own mount. "We'll start there, look for tracks." They rode out of town just as Willow Creek was coming to life. A few early risers paused in their morning routines to watch the strange pair, the notorious bounty hunter and the Apache woman, but Liam ignored their stares, focused on the journey ahead. Once beyond the town's borders, they settled into an easy pace. Nayeli rode slightly behind Liam, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings with the alertness of one accustomed to danger. The silence between them was not uncomfortable, but Liam found himself curious about his unexpected companion. "How did you end up alone, captured by those men?" he finally asked, breaking the stillness. Nayeli was quiet for a moment before answering. "I was returning from visiting my father's sister in Tucson. She is ill," her expression darkened. "Those men attacked my camp while I slept. They killed my guide, an old man who had served my father for many years." Liam heard the grief beneath her controlled tone. "I'm sorry." She looked at him sharply. "Why, you did not kill him." "Loss is loss," Liam replied simply. Something in his voice must have revealed more than he intended, for Nayeli studied him with renewed interest. "You speak from experience." It wasn't a question, and Liam didn't treat it as one. They rode in silence for another mile before he surprised himself by speaking again. "My family was killed 5 years ago. Our homestead was attacked while I was hunting." "Apache?" she asked directly. Liam shook his head. "Never found out. Could have been raiders, outlaws, or hostile tribes. Found tracks, but a storm washed them away before I could follow far." "So you became a hunter of men," Nayeli observed. "Seeking justice for others when you could not find it for yourself." Her perception was uncomfortably accurate. Liam shifted in his saddle. "I became what the frontier needed, nothing more poetic than that." Nayeli smiled faintly. "We all tell ourselves stories to make sense of our lives, Liam Sullivan. Some are just more honest than others." They reached Cottonwood Crossing by midday. The site of the ambush was marked by the charred remains of an army supply wagon. Vultures had long since picked clean any remains, but the ground still told its story to those who knew how to read it. Liam dismounted, scanning the area with practiced eyes. Nayeli joined him, kneeling to examine tracks that had been partially erased by wind and time. 6 riders, she said confidently. They came from the northwest, attacked quickly, then scattered in different directions before regrouping. She pointed to barely visible signs in the dust. "See how these tracks are deeper. They carried away supplies." Liam nodded, impressed despite himself. "Can you follow them?" Nayeli stood, brushing dust from her leggings. "Yes, but tracking them to their camp will take time." They are careful. Time is something we have, Liam replied. The army won't move without solid intelligence. They remounted and followed the faint trail northwest, toward increasingly rugged terrain. As they rode, Nayeli pointed out signs that would have been invisible to most: broken twigs, displaced stones, the pattern of disturbed dust. Her knowledge of the land was intimate, born of generations living in harmony with its harsh realities. By late afternoon, they had ascended into foothills covered with juniper and scrub pine. The air was cooler here, the landscape offering more places for ambush. Liam remained alert, one hand never far from his Winchester rifle. We should make camp soon, Nayeli suggested as the sun began its descent. There is a spring ahead, hidden among those rocks. She indicated a formation to their right. You know this area well, Liam observed. She nodded. This was my mother's people's territory before the reservation system. My grandfather taught me every water source, every cave, every path through these mountains. The spring proved to be exactly where she had promised, a small but steady flow of clear water emerging from between lichen-covered rocks. It fed a tiny pool before disappearing again underground. The surrounding area offered natural shelter and good visibility of the approach paths. As Liam tended to the horses, Nayeli gathered firewood with practiced efficiency. They worked in comfortable tandem, establishing camp as the day's heat gave way to evening coolness. When Liam produced jerky and hardtack from his saddlebags, Nayeli disappeared briefly, returning with several prickly pear fruits and a handful of pinyon nuts. The desert provides for those who know its secrets, she said, offering him some of her foraged food. They ate in companionable silence as darkness descended fully. The fire crackled between them, casting dancing shadows across their faces. Above, stars emerged in breathtaking profusion, a celestial tapestry spanning horizon to horizon. Why do you hunt alone? Nayeli asked suddenly. Most trackers work with partners. Liam poked at the fire with a stick. Partners complicate things. You mean they might get hurt, she suggested, and you would feel responsible. Liam glanced up, finding her dark eyes studying him intently across the flames. People close to me tend to end up dead, he said bluntly. I've made my peace with solitude. Have you? Nayeli challenged gently. Peace looks different on a man's face. You carry war within you, Liam Sullivan. Her use of his full name sent an unexpected shiver through him. There was power in names, his mother had always said, power in being truly seen by another. And you, he countered, uncomfortable with her insight. Where do you belong, Nayeli Hawkeye? Not fully in the white world, not fully in the Apache world. A sad smile touched her lips. Perhaps that is why I understand you. To walk between worlds is to belong fully to neither. She gazed up at the stars. My mother's people say we are all born with a purpose. Mine, I think, is to be a bridge. My father believed the same. That is why he married my mother despite the prejudice they faced. Are they still alive? Liam asked. Nayeli shook her head. My father died of fever 3 winters ago. My mother returned to her people on the reservation after his death. She follows the old ways. Yet you don't live with her. I was educated in the mission school, and then by my father. I speak 4 languages. I can read Shakespeare and calculate complex mathematics. There was no boastfulness in her tone, merely statement of fact. But I also know the ways of my mother's people, how to track, hunt, heal with plants. I belong in both worlds, which means I must travel between them. Liam found himself drawn to her quiet strength, her certainty in her own path, despite the difficulties it presented. It contrasted sharply with his own existence, reactive, defined by what he had lost rather than what he might build. We should sleep, he said, suddenly needing distance from these uncomfortable reflections. I'll take first watch. Nayeli nodded, unrolling her blanket on the opposite side of the fire. Wake me at midnight, you need rest as well. As she settled down to sleep, Liam found himself watching the firelight play across her features. In repose, her face softened, revealing the young woman beneath the capable guide and survivor. Something protective stirred within him, a feeling he immediately distrusted. Attachment was weakness, caring led to vulnerability. He repeated his mantra silently as he turned his gaze to the surrounding darkness, rifle across his knees. Yet somehow the words had begun to sound hollow, like a lie he had told himself so often he had forgotten to question its truth. Midnight came, and with it his turn to sleep. As Nayeli took his place on watch, their hands brushed briefly in the darkness. The contact lasted only a moment, yet Liam felt it long after he had wrapped himself in his blanket, as if her touch had awakened nerve endings long dormant. Sleep came reluctantly that night, and when it did, he dreamed not of past horrors but of dark eyes that saw too much, and a voice that spoke of belonging in a world where he had convinced himself such things were impossible. For 3 days they tracked the Apache raiders deeper into the mountains. The trail grew fresher as they ascended into more remote terrain, territory where few white men ventured. The signs indicated they were closing the distance. Campfires less than a day old, tracks showing distinct where patterns Nayeli could identify by individual rider. They developed a rhythm together, communicating with gestures and brief words when necessary, but often working in silent understanding. Liam found himself increasingly impressed by Nayeli's skills. She was not only a superior tracker, but also a crack shot with the small pistol she carried concealed in her boot, a fact he discovered when she brought down a rabbit for their dinner with a single shot at 30 paces. On the evening of the 3rd day, as they made camp in a sheltered canyon, Nayeli returned from scouting with tension evident in her posture. "We are close," she said quietly, kneeling beside Liam. "I found fresh horse droppings and signs of regular travel less than 2 miles ahead. I believe their camp is in the Box Canyon beyond the next ridge." Liam nodded, his expression serious. "We'll approach at first light. Get a count of their numbers and weapons before reporting back." "And then?" Nayeli asked, her eyes searching his. "Then I fulfill my contract," Liam replied. "I provide the army with the location." A shadow crossed her face. "And they will attack. There may be women and children in that camp, Liam." It was the first time she had addressed him by his first name alone, and it carried a weight that his full name had not. "We don't know that," he said, though doubt had begun to gnaw at him. "The reports spoke only of warriors attacking supply wagons." "Warriors protect their people," Nayeli said softly, "just as your army does. The difference is in whose story is believed." They ate their evening meal in thoughtful silence. The implications of their mission had never been so starkly clear to Liam. He had taken the job thinking of raiders, outlaws, men who chose violence. But what if the camp contained families? What if these attacks were born of desperation rather than malice? As darkness fell, Nayeli moved to sit beside him rather than across the fire. The night was cooler at this elevation, and she wrapped her blanket around her shoulders. "Tell me about your family," she said unexpectedly. "The ones you lost." Liam tensed, his instinct to deflect such personal queries. But something about the quiet night and Nayeli's presence beside him loosened the tight control he maintained over his memories. "My father was a dreamer," he began, his voice low. "Came west with notions of building something lasting. My mother was practical, kept us fed while his dreams slowly took shape." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I had 2 younger sisters, twins. They were 12 when..." He trailed off, but Nayeli didn't press. Instead, she placed her hand lightly on his forearm, a gesture of understanding rather than pity. "My father used to say that those we love never truly leave us," she offered. "Their spirits remain, watching over us, until we join them in the next world." "Do you believe that?" Liam asked. Nayeli looked up at the star-filled sky. "I believe love is the one force death cannot destroy. It remains like an echo in a canyon, long after the original voice has fallen silent." Her words touched something buried deep within Liam, a belief in connection he had deliberately abandoned after finding his family's bodies. He had convinced himself that severing all bonds was the only way to survive in a world of such random cruelty. Yet sitting beside this woman who walked between worlds, who carried her dual heritage with such grace despite its challenges, he found himself questioning the walls he had built around his heart. "What if," he began, then hesitated. Nayeli turned to him, her face partially illuminated by the dying fire. "Speak your thought," she encouraged gently. Liam met her gaze. "What if there's another way? What if we warn the camp instead of reporting its location, give them a chance to move, to avoid bloodshed?" Hope flickered in Nayeli's eyes. "You would do this, forfeit your payment." "Money's just money," Liam said, surprising himself with the ease of his decision. "Can't spend it if you can't sleep at night." The smile that bloomed across Nayeli's face affected him more powerfully than he could have anticipated. It transformed her features from merely beautiful to radiant, reaching her eyes and illuminating them with an inner light. "Perhaps there is more of the bridge builder in you than you realized, Liam Sullivan," she said softly. Their gazes held, and in that moment something shifted between them, a recognition of shared values beneath their different exteriors. Without conscious thought, Liam found himself leaning toward her, drawn by a force as inevitable as gravity. Nayeli met him halfway, her lips finding his in a kiss that began tentatively but quickly deepened. Her hand came up to rest against his cheek, her touch both gentle and sure. Liam's arm encircled her waist, drawing her closer, feeling the warmth of her body against his. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Liam saw his own wonder reflected in Nayeli's eyes. He had not allowed himself to feel such connection in years, had deliberately numbed himself to the possibility. "This changes things," he said quietly. Nayeli nodded, her hand still resting against his face. "Yes, but perhaps they needed changing." They stayed close through the night, speaking in low voices of their pasts, their beliefs, the different worlds they had inhabited. As dawn approached, Liam realized he had shared more of himself with this woman in 3 days than he had with anyone in the past 5 years. It terrified him. And yet, for the first time in longer than he could remember, he also felt fully alive. Morning brought clarity and purpose. Their plan was simple but risky: approach the camp under a flag of truce, speak with the leader, and warn of the impending military threat. Whether they would be received peacefully remained uncertain. Liam was acutely aware that his reputation might work against them. "Let me speak first," Nayeli suggested as they prepared to depart, "in my mother's tongue. It may help establish trust." Liam nodded his agreement. He had stripped his gear down to essentials, leaving behind anything that might appear threatening. His rifle remained with their horses, though he kept his Colt at his hip. To approach completely unarmed would be foolhardy. They crested the ridge shortly after sunrise, and the camp came into view in the canyon below. It was larger than Liam had expected, perhaps 20 wickiups arranged in a semicircle, with horses corralled at one end. Smoke rose from several cooking fires, and children played between the dwellings. This was no war party's temporary camp, it was a settlement of families. Nayeli and Liam exchanged glances, the reality of what they were seeing confirming their decision. Had they reported this location to the army, the result would have been a massacre of innocents. "There," Nayeli said, pointing to a tall figure emerging from the largest wickiup. "That is likely Tonto. He wears the headband of a war chief." They began their descent, Nayeli holding aloft a strip of white cloth tied to a branch. Their approach was quickly noticed. Women hurried children inside dwellings while men emerged with rifles and bows. Halfway down the slope, they were met by 4 mounted warriors, weapons raised. Nayeli spoke immediately in Apache, her voice clear and confident. Liam understood nothing of the exchange, but noted the surprised expressions of the warriors and their glances in his direction. One warrior, distinguished by elaborate paint across his cheekbones, responded at length. After several minutes of conversation, he gestured for them to continue toward the camp, though the warriors remained as escorts. "He is taking us to Tonto," Nayeli explained quietly to Liam. "I told him we come with warning, not threats, that you chose to protect their people rather than betray them." "Did he believe you?" Liam asked, noting the warrior's suspicious glances. "Enough to not kill us immediately," she replied with grim humor. "The rest depends on Tonto." The war chief awaited them in the center of the camp, a commanding figure well over 6 feet tall. His face was deeply lined, speaking of decades of hardship and struggle. Around him gathered other men of the tribe, all regarding the visitors with wary hostility. Again, Nayeli spoke in Apache, occasionally gesturing toward Liam. The chief's expression remained impassive, but his dark eyes assessed Liam with penetrating intensity. When Nayeli finished speaking, silence fell over the gathering. Finally, Tonto spoke directly to Liam in accented but clear English. "My niece says you are a hunter of men who has chosen not to hunt her people. Why should I believe this?" Liam met the chief's gaze steadily. "Because I'm standing before you unarmed when I could be leading soldiers here instead." Tonto considered this. "What do you want in return for this warning?" "Nothing," Liam said simply, "except perhaps your word that the attacks on army wagons will stop. They're bringing unwanted attention to your people." The chief's expression hardened. "Those wagons carry supplies to the fort that imprisons our brothers and sisters. The reservation is death to our way of life." "I understand," Liam replied, "but continuing these attacks will bring worse than supply shortages. It will bring an army prepared for war." A tense silence followed as Tonto weighed Liam's words. Finally, he spoke again. We will consider your warning. Until then, you are our guests." His tone made it clear this was both hospitality and captivity. "Tonight we will counsel." As warriors escorted them to an empty wickiup, Nayeli whispered, "This is better than I hoped. Being invited to counsel means he takes your words seriously." Liam nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at him. They were effectively prisoners, their fate dependent on Tonto's decision. Yet as he observed the camp, the children playing, women preparing food, the everyday rhythm of a community, he knew they had made the right choice. Throughout the day they remained under watch but were treated respectfully. Women brought them food, a rich stew of rabbit and wild onions, and children peeked curiously into their shelter before being shooed away by adults. As evening approached, Nayeli's status as the daughter of an Apache mother earned her the right to join the women in their preparations for the council feast. Liam remained alone, watched by two young warriors who regarded him with undisguised curiosity. "You are the Ghost Rider," one finally said in halting English. Liam raised an eyebrow. "Ghost Rider." The young man nodded. "Stories say you track men where others cannot follow, that you appear from nowhere and vanish like morning mist." Despite the tension of their situation, Liam found himself smiling slightly. Reputation tends to grow taller than the man. The warrior considered this, then asked with unexpected directness, "Why do you help our people when you hunt men for gold?" The question struck at the heart of the transformation Liam had been experiencing since meeting Nayeli. Before he could formulate a response, a commotion at the camp's edge drew everyone's attention. Riders approached, not Apache but white men. Through the gathering dusk, Liam recognized the leader with a jolt of alarm. Marshal Wilson, accompanied by a dozen armed men. "Sullivan," the marshal's voice boomed across the camp. "We know you're in there, show yourself." Liam emerged from the wickiup, heart pounding. The situation had just become exponentially more dangerous. Behind Wilson, he recognized several of the ranch hands who had captured Nayeli, along with a contingent of soldiers. "Marshal," Liam acknowledged, keeping his voice neutral as he walked forward, "this is unexpected." Wilson's expression was thunderous. "Unexpected? You disappear for days with an Apache woman, then turn up in a raider camp." "I'd call that suspicious." "It's not what it looks like," Liam began but was cut off. "Save it," Wilson snapped. "Those men you embarrassed at the saloon followed you, saw you tracking with the Indian girl. They went to Fort Bowie with their suspicions." His hand rested meaningfully on his pistol. "Army figures you've switched sides, become a scout for the Apache." The accusation hung in the air as tension escalated palpably. Warriors had emerged from all parts of the camp, weapons ready. The soldiers likewise had their rifles prepared. One wrong move would ignite a bloodbath. "That's not true," Liam stated firmly. "I came to warn them. To prevent unnecessary killing." "By betraying your own kind," challenged one of the ranch hands, the same man who had threatened Nayeli in the saloon. Before Liam could respond, Nayeli appeared at his side. Her presence both comforted and alarmed him. He wanted her nowhere near these men who had mistreated her before. "He betrayed no one," she said clearly. "He chose justice over vengeance, life over death." Wilson's eyes narrowed. "Step away from him, Indian. This doesn't concern you." "It concerns all of us," came Tonto's deep voice as the chief joined them. "This man came in peace to prevent bloodshed. Now you bring weapons to our doorstep." The army captain, a young man with a neatly trimmed beard, moved his horse forward. "We've orders to arrest Sullivan for suspected collaboration with hostiles and to engage any Apache warriors responsible for attacks on army shipments." Liam saw the situation deteriorating rapidly. He stepped forward, placing himself between the two groups. "There's no need for violence. I can explain everything." "There's nothing to explain," Wilson growled. "You made your choice when you sided with them." The tension reached breaking point as weapons were raised on both sides. In that moment, with seconds separating them from catastrophe, Nayeli made a decision that would change everything. She stepped forward, her voice ringing out clear and authoritative. "My name is Nayeli Hawkeye. My father was Jonathan Hawkeye, who traded fairly with both Apache and white settlers for 20 years. Many of you knew him." Her declaration caused a ripple of recognition among some of the older men in Wilson's party. The name Hawkeye carried weight in the territory. "My mother is sister to Chief Rising Bear of the Chiricahua," she continued. I walk in both your worlds, and I tell you this. Liam Sullivan has prevented a massacre this day. These people," she gestured to the Apache camp, "are families seeking to live away from the reservation's disease and hunger. Yes, some of their warriors have attacked your wagons. But they did so to feed their children, not from hatred." The army captain frowned. "If what you say is true, why didn't Sullivan report this to proper authorities?" "Because he knew what would happen," Liam replied, finding his voice. "You wouldn't have seen families, you'd have seen hostiles, and children would have died." A heavy silence fell as his words sank in. The ranch hands shifted uncomfortably, while the soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. Even Wilson seemed momentarily at a loss. It was Tonto who broke the impasse. With dignity that commanded attention, he addressed the captain. "We do not want war. We want only to live free, to hunt, to raise our children in the ways of our ancestors. The reservation is slow death." The captain considered this. "I have my orders." "Orders can be reconsidered," Nayeli suggested. "There is precedent. Other bands have been granted hunting rights while maintaining peace with settlers." As the possibility of dialogue rather than bloodshed emerged, Liam found himself watching Nayeli with profound admiration. She was indeed a bridge between worlds, articulate, compassionate, and unafraid to stand for justice regardless of the source of injustice. The discussion continued into the night, moving from confrontation to negotiation. The captain, revealing himself to be more reasonable than his initial approach suggested, agreed to return to Fort Bowie with a proposal. The Apache band would cease attacks on army shipments in exchange for recognized hunting rights in their traditional territories and medical supplies for their children. Marshal Wilson was less easily persuaded. "Sullivan still needs to answer for his actions," he insisted. "Interfering with army intelligence is a serious matter." "I'll return to Willow Creek," Liam agreed. "Face whatever consequences come, but I stand by my decision." As the negotiations concluded and tentative trust was established, the immediate threat of violence receded. The army contingent would camp nearby for the night, with formal talks to continue in the morning. When they were finally alone again in their wickiup, Liam turned to Nayeli. "You were magnificent out there. You saved lives today." She smiled, though weariness showed in her eyes. "We both did, but tomorrow brings new challenges. Wilson wants to make an example of you." "Let him try," Liam said with more confidence than he felt. "Truth counts for something in this territory." Nayeli's expression grew serious as she took his hands in hers. "Liam, when this is over, what then? Where does your path lead?" The question struck at the heart of the transformation he had been undergoing since meeting her. For 5 years he had existed without direction beyond the next bounty, the next trail. Now, looking into her eyes, he saw possibilities he had deliberately blinded himself to. "I don't know," he admitted. "For the first time in years, the future seems open." Nayeli's fingers tightened around his. "Perhaps our paths need not separate." The implication of her words stirred something profound within him. Hope, that most dangerous of emotions for a man who had armored himself against disappointment. "I'm not an easy man, Nayeli," he warned softly. "I've lived alone a long time." "And I am caught between two worlds," she replied, "neither fully accepting me. We are both outsiders in our way." Her dark eyes held his. "But perhaps together, we create our own place of belonging." Liam drew her close, overcome by emotions he had long suppressed. Their kiss was both tender and fierce, an acknowledgement of the unlikely bond they had formed and the uncertain future they faced. Whatever came next, Wilson's justice, the negotiated peace, the journey beyond, they would face it not as solitary travelers, but as companions who had found in each other something neither believed possible. A home that existed not in a place, but in a person. The following morning brought formal negotiations between Tonto and the army captain. Nayeli served as interpreter and mediator, her unique position allowing her to explain cultural nuances to both sides. Liam, though still technically under arrest, contributed his knowledge of territory boundaries and seasonal hunting grounds. By midday, a tentative agreement had been reached. The Apache band would be permitted to remain in their traditional hunting grounds, provided they registered with the Indian Agency and maintained peace with settlers. In exchange, they would receive limited medical supplies and food assistance during winter months. It was an imperfect solution, but far better than bloodshed. As the documents were prepared, Marshal Wilson approached Liam where he stood observing the proceedings. "You're still facing charges back in town," the marshal reminded him gruffly. "Interfering with army operations ain't taken lightly." Liam nodded, resigned. "I understand." Wilson studied him for a long moment. "Never figured you for an Indian lover, Sullivan." "This isn't about taking sides, Marshal," Liam replied evenly. "It's about doing what's right. These people deserve to live with dignity, same as anyone." Something shifted in Wilson's expression, not agreement exactly, but perhaps reluctant respect. "Judge Thompson arrives next week. You'll get your chance to make that case to him." As Wilson walked away, Nayeli joined Liam. "It is done," she said quietly. "The agreement is signed." Relief washed over him. Then it was worth it. "Whatever comes next." Nayeli's expression grew troubled. "I overheard Wilson. You face serious charges." "Nothing that can't be weathered," Liam assured her, though uncertainty gnawed at him. Interfering with army operations could mean prison time, depending on the judge's disposition. They departed for Willow Creek that afternoon, Liam, Nayeli, Marshal Wilson, and 2 deputies. The journey was tense, conversation minimal. Each mile brought them closer to civilization and its justice system, which too often failed to live up to its name where relations with native peoples were concerned. They reached town 3 days later. Word of their arrival spread quickly, and curious onlookers lined the streets as Wilson escorted Liam directly to the jailhouse. Nayeli followed, ignoring the hostile stares and whispered comments from townsfolk. "You don't need to stay," Liam told her as they reached the jail. "This could get ugly." Nayeli's chin lifted defiantly. "I am not afraid of their looks or words. I will testify on your behalf when the judge arrives." Wilson unlocked the cell door. "In you go, Sullivan. Miss Hawkeye, you're free to find accommodation if any place in town will have you." His tone suggested he doubted this possibility. "She'll stay at my place," came an unexpected voice. Eleanor James, the widow who ran the town's general store, stepped forward from the small crowd that had gathered. "Any friend of Jonathan Hawkeye's daughter is welcome under my roof." Surprise registered on Nayeli's face. "You knew my father." The older woman nodded, a kind smile softening her weathered features. "He saved my husband's life during the fever outbreak of '77. Never forgot that kindness." She turned a stern gaze on the onlookers. "And neither should any of you who benefited from his medicines and fair trading." This reminder of Jonathan Hawkeye's respected status in the community caused a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Several people nodded or murmured in agreement. As Liam was locked in his cell, Nayeli approached the bars. "I will return tomorrow," she promised. "Have faith, Liam Sullivan. Truth has power even here." With that, she departed with Eleanor, leaving Liam to face the uncertain days ahead. The week that followed tested both their resolves. Liam endured the confines of his cell and the speculation of the town. Some considered him a traitor, others merely a fool led astray by an Indian woman's influence. Few understood the moral stand he had taken. Nayeli, meanwhile, faced daily prejudice as she moved through town. Yet she carried herself with unwavering dignity, winning grudging respect from some and outright admiration from others, particularly when she used her knowledge of herbal medicine to help Eleanor's arthritic hands and later to treat a child's infected wound when the town doctor was away. They were permitted brief visits under Wilson's watchful eye. During these moments, they spoke of small things, the weather, Eleanor's kindness, the town gossip, but their eyes communicated deeper truths. Concern for each other, strengthening affection, determination to face whatever came together. Judge Thompson arrived on schedule, a stern-faced man with a reputation for harsh sentences but fair hearings. The trial was set for the following day in the town hall, the only building large enough to accommodate the many curious citizens who wished to attend. The night before the trial, Nayeli visited Liam one last time. Wilson, in an unexpected gesture of compassion, allowed them a few moments of privacy. "Whatever happens tomorrow," she said softly through the bars, her hands clasping his, "know that you changed something important. Not just for my mother's people, but for yourself." Liam's thumb traced gentle circles on the back of her hand. "Meeting you changed everything, Nayeli. Made me remember there's more to living than just surviving." Her eyes shimmered with emotion. "When this is over, I want to show you my grandfather's lands near the Painted Cliffs. It is a place of great beauty and peace." I'd like that, Liam replied, allowing himself to imagine a future beyond his current predicament. The trial began at 9 the next morning. The town hall was packed to capacity, the atmosphere tense with anticipation. Judge Thompson presided from a makeshift bench, his expression inscrutable as the charges were read: interfering with military operations, aiding hostiles, dereliction of contracted duty. Wilson presented the prosecution's case first, outlining how Liam had accepted payment to locate the Apache raiders, but had instead warned them of impending military action. Though his account was factually accurate, it lacked context and compassion. When it came time for the defense, Liam spoke simply and directly. He explained his initial acceptance of the job, his growing doubts upon discovering the camp contained families, and his moral decision to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. "I've hunted men who chose to break the law," he concluded, "not women and children whose only crime was wanting to live freely on their ancestral lands. If that makes me guilty, then I accept your judgment." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as he stepped down. Judge Thompson called Nayeli next, causing another stir as she walked confidently to the front of the room, dressed in a simple blue calico dress borrowed from Alina, but wearing her mother's traditional necklace of turquoise and silver. With eloquence that silenced even her critics, Nayeli recounted the events from her perspective. She emphasized the peaceful resolution achieved through dialogue rather than violence, and the agreement now in place between the Apache band and the army. "The man you judged today chose the difficult path of peace over the easy path of conflict," she stated, her gaze sweeping the room. "In doing so, he honored the best traditions of both our peoples." As she returned to her seat, Alina James rose unexpectedly. "Your Honor, if I may speak." The judge nodded, curiosity evident in his expression. "I've lived in this territory 30 years, Alina began, seen the worst of both sides in this long conflict between settlers and native peoples. What Mr. Sullivan did might seem like betrayal to some, but to others, those of us who remember the massacres at Skeleton Canyon and Salt River, it looks like wisdom." Her testimony opened a floodgate. Others stood to speak, some supporting Liam, others condemning him. Most surprising was the army captain, who had accompanied the judge to town. "While I cannot condone civilian interference with military operations," he stated formally, "I must acknowledge that Sullivan's actions, however irregular, resulted in a peaceful resolution that may serve as a model for future relations with cooperative Apache bands." By late afternoon, all testimony had been heard. Judge Thompson called for silence, his weathered face thoughtful as he considered his ruling. "The law is clear regarding interference with military operations," he began, and Liam's heart sank. "However, the law must also serve justice and the greater good of this territory." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Sullivan, your methods were questionable, but your intentions appear honorable. The peaceful resolution achieved suggests your judgment in this instance was sound, even if unorthodox." A ripple of reaction moved through the crowd. "I find you guilty of breach of contract," the judge continued, "for which you will forfeit all payment and pay a fine of $100. However, on the more serious charges of aiding hostiles and interfering with military operations, I find insufficient evidence of malicious intent." Relief washed over Liam as the implications became clear. "No prison time. This court is adjourned," Judge Thompson concluded, bringing his gavel down with finality. As the crowd dispersed with mixed reactions, Nayeli made her way to Liam's side. Her smile conveyed everything words could not: pride, relief, joy. "It seems you are a free man," she said, her voice soft but carrying undercurrents of deeper emotion. "Free in more ways than one," Liam replied, taking her hands in his without caring who might see. "Free to choose a new path." Alina approached them, her kind face wreathed in smiles. "Well, that's settled then. What next for you two?" It was the question that had hovered between them since their first acknowledgement of deeper feelings. Liam looked at Nayeli, seeing in her eyes the same certainty he felt in his heart. "I think," he said slowly, "it's time I stopped wandering and found somewhere to belong." Nayeli's smile deepened. "I know a valley near my grandfather's territories, good water, fertile soil. Room enough for horses and a small herd." "Sounds like you've been thinking about this," Liam observed, his own smile growing. "Since the moment you stepped between me and those men in the saloon," she admitted. "Not that I needed rescuing, but your choice that night revealed your true character." Elinor watched them with knowing eyes. Seems to me you two have plans to make, but first, she added with practical wisdom, there's the matter of making things official if that's your intention. Liam glanced at Nayeli, suddenly uncertain. He had not allowed himself to consider permanent bonds for so long that the idea both exhilarated and terrified him. Nayeli, reading his thoughts with uncanny accuracy, squeezed his hands reassuringly. My father and mother were married by both Christian ceremony and Apache tradition. It brought harmony to their union. Is that what you want? Liam asked quietly. I want a life with meaning, she replied, with purpose. With love, her dark eyes held his. I have found all three with you, Liam Sullivan. The simplicity of her declaration washed away his final reservations. In this woman who bridged worlds with such grace, who faced prejudice with dignity and danger with courage, he had found not just a companion but a home for his heart. Then yes, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Let's make it official, in both traditions. 2 weeks later, under a brilliant autumn sky, Liam and Nayeli were married first by Reverend Phillips in Elinor's garden, surrounded by a small gathering of townsfolk whose initial skepticism had given way to cautious acceptance of their union. Wilson attended, as did several of Nayeli's friends from the mission school days. The following day, they traveled to the Apache camp where Tonto performed the traditional blessing ceremony. Nayeli's mother, a dignified woman with the same striking features as her daughter, journeyed from the reservation to witness the union. Her approval, though initially reluctant, was cemented when she saw the depth of respect and love between her daughter and the white man who had chosen justice over prejudice. By spring, they had established their homestead in the valley Nayeli had spoken of, a verdant oasis nestled between red rock formations, with a clear stream providing reliable water. They built a cabin that incorporated elements of both cultures, sturdy log walls and a stone fireplace alongside a traditional ramada for summer gatherings and food preparation. Liam's skills as a tracker and Nayeli's knowledge of the land made them nearly self-sufficient. They raised horses, cultivated a garden, and occasionally traded with both settlers and Apache bands who passed through the territory. Their home became known as a place of neutrality and fair dealing, where travelers of all backgrounds could find temporary shelter and mediation for disputes. Word of their unconventional union spread throughout the territory, initially as a curiosity but gradually as an example of possibility. Other mixed couples, previously hesitant to acknowledge their relationships publicly, found courage in their example. On a golden evening in their second year together, as they sat on the cabin's porch watching the sunset paint the cliffs in hues of orange and crimson, Nayeli placed Liam's hand on her slightly rounded belly. Our child will be a bridge between worlds, she said softly, like us. Liam's throat tightened with emotion as he felt the physical evidence of their love, of the future they were creating together. Our child will know both strength and compassion, he promised. Will learn to see with both hearts as you taught me to do. Nayeli leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. The path between worlds is never easy. But it is where the most important journeys happen. As twilight deepened into night and stars appeared above the cliffs that sheltered their home, Liam reflected on the transformation of his life. From a solitary hunter haunted by loss, he had become a husband, soon to be a father, and a man who had found his true purpose not in vengeance but in building bridges. The Apache girl had indeed tamed the cowboy's heart, not through conquest but through shared courage and mutual respect. Together, they had proven what neither could have accomplished alone. That love, when given room to grow in even the harshest conditions, could flourish beyond all boundaries.